Hey guys, how's it going? Oxford here. In this video, I'm going to be walking you through how to use the Final Fantasy XIV clean UI, how I go from the look that you're seeing now on your screen to this look here, where it brings everything into frame and it brings up your HUD. Another part of this video that I want to show you is how I bring up all of the inventory together, your character menu, your armory chest, your inventory, your chocobo saddlebag, and it auto sorts it. There's macros that I run, and I want to go ahead and walk through everything that I'm doing here to kind of showcase this clean UI. And this will be ready for Dawntrail. At the time of recording, it's June 2nd, 2024, so Dawntrail is not quite out just yet, but I want to get this video out to help you guys out. So the first thing that I want to talk about is how do you get this view right here? The first thing that I did is you're going to open up your menu here and go to the user macros, okay? Now, I'm going to put this in the description box so you guys just simply copy and paste it and put it into your game to make it easier for you. Now, as far as the icon goes, it's completely up to you. But when you open up your user macros, make sure that you tab over to the shared tab, not the individual one. At least that's how I have mine set up. So go over to shared and you're going to set up a brand new macro. For me, I just use the sword icon. You can choose whatever icon you want. The sword obviously means you're going into battle. And then I like to have the what I call the exploration mode. So I just labeled it some boots. And then here I just have like, you know, a medicine jar or whatever this is for my inventory, just something that I thought would be recognizable for me. And so let's go ahead and start with this one called non-battle UI. Okay. So here you're going to have /hudlayout2 and then /weight. And then /HUD Crosshotbar off if you're using Crosshotbar, and I'll go over the hotbars in just a second. And then /HUD param off, okay? So if you are on a keyboard mouse, okay, and you're not using Crosshotbar, so take this one out, and what you're gonna do is, if you go down to the text commands, you're gonna see, if you scroll all the way down to the H's, where it's gonna say /HUD, right here, and then you're going to have UI elements, okay? If you go all the way down, you're going to see what I'm talking about. And for me, Crosshotbar is what I use on the PC version, so it's a little simpler. It's Crosshotbar, and that's it. However, if you're using keyboard mouse, you're going to have to say, and the H doesn't have to be capitalized, by the way. You can do lowercase h. And you're going to have to literally say hotbar 1 off, hotbar 2 off, all the way down to 10 if you use all 10. Does that make sense? So you're going to have multiple lines of commands rather than just the cross hotbar. As an example here, I'm going to do /HUD hotbar and then 1 space off, right? And then you're going to do the same thing for all of your other hotbars. Make sure there's no space between the number and the word hotbar, and then space off. So if you have all your hotbars up, you literally have like all of this, you know, all the way down. But like I said, for me, I'm using the cross hotbar, so it's just one simple command, okay? So that's what I do for this one. Now, to give you an idea of where I place things, just to kind of use it as a template for you, and from there, you can do whatever you'd like. I kind of liked everything shoved in the corners, so if you've noticed, you open up your HUD layout. When you're in this mode or this view, open up your HUD layout and move things around when this command is being ran, so that it'll always be like this. Does that make sense? So for me, I just went ahead and increased the size of the minimap. I think it's 200%. I'm not quite sure. And I shoved it in the right-hand corner along with the server info, the experience bar, the scenario guide, and the duty list, okay, off to the right. And then down here, what I ended up doing for your job gauge, I ended up doing the simplified version to make it really small and tiny as possible. So as an example here, I'm on Reaper, I believe. And what I did here is I selected this. You see where it says Death Gauge? I went ahead and hit this gear cog where it says UI Element Settings, all right? And then I went ahead and just said, switch job gauge to simple mode. And then I dropped it down to 60%, the lowest it has in the game, and I hit save. That's why it's so tiny and off at the bottom right corner. Soul gauge, again, the other part of the Reaper job gauge element. Again, hit the gear cog, click the switch job gauge to simple mode, and then drop this down to 60%. Make sure you hit save. And that's what I did down here. Inventory grid, main menu, the guild, all that is over to the right. Over to the left, I have the chat, and then right next to it is your status info, enhancements, and status info other. You can do whatever you'd like. But again, this is just for a template for you to kind of generate some ideas for you or maybe inspire you to like maybe move the elements around. But this is the clean UI for exploration. Okay. Now, if you noticed, the cross hotbar off command literally has this off. So when I press my gamepad buttons, it brings up the UI so I can see it. That's the whole purpose of this, to make it look clean and nice, especially when you're running around, you're exploring, grabbing quests, it's all nice and clean. Feels like almost like a single player, role-playing game in a sense, right? And I just didn't like all the HUD being everywhere. Now, let's go into the macro of running this right here, right? You can click a button here and boom, everything comes into frame, comes right into focus when you're ready for engaging into a battle or whatever, all right? So again, open up your menu, come over to your user macros, and remember that we're gonna be going over to the second tab called shared. And again, I did the sword icon because it's easier for me to recognize that's for battle. And then you're gonna have right here, the macro, these commands. I'm gonna put that in the description box for you guys. So this is /HUDlayout1 and then /wait.1 and then /emotelog off. You don't need to do that. I just like having an emote, running around, like whenever I'm getting ready to engage in a battle, like my character to, do the whole battle thing, but that's completely optional. But I didn't want the emote of that running in the log for everybody to see it because it's kind of annoying. So I made sure to say /emotelog off and then /BM. Next is /bstance for battle stance, and then /emotelog on to put it back on, and then /HUD crossbar on. And again, like I mentioned in the previous section, if you're using keyboard mouse, you're going to want to make sure that these commands literally say /HUD hotbar 1, no space, and then on, and then /HUD hotbar 2, 3, all the way down to 10, whatever hotbars that you have enabled for your gameplay, make sure that it gets turned on simultaneously. Okay. So another thing that I want to talk about here is when you open up your HUD layout, this is what I did. Some tips and tricks, kind of a little bit outside the scope of this video, but I want to kind of segue into why I have the elements where they are so that everything can be right into frame. All right. So what I did, I actually want to start with this right here, the target info progress bar, where I have it like right in the center of the screen. So what you're going to do is select this and hit the gear cog right here where it says UI elements. You're going to hit that. And then you see this button right here. It says display target info independently. This right here is a game changer. You're definitely going to want to enable this, in my humble opinion. You can do whatever you'd like. But what this does is it allows you to separate the target info progress bar. So whenever the enemy, no matter if it's a boss or just a regular mob, when they're getting ready to cast whatever they're doing, you can now see it easier than it being tagged or next to their HP bar. So by separating this element, I put it in the middle of my screen so I'll never miss a mechanic on whenever they're about to do something, okay? From there, you can adjust the size, whatever floats your boat. Just make sure that when you do this, that it's definitely separate from the HP bar, like I mentioned before. That's probably the one thing that I want to start with here. So another section that I want to talk about in this video is the status info enfeeblements and then your status, your enhancements, okay? And why I have them the way they are. Again, use this as a template, and then from there, you can choose something that you like or whatever fits your play style, okay? So for me, I went with the enfeeblements on the left side of the screen. And then not only that, but I increased the element size to 200%. How you do that is select that element, select the UI element settings gear cog, and then scroll down here until you see enfeeblements, okay? So remember, we're focusing on enfeeblements right here. So scroll down until you see group 3, status info enfeeblements. I drop this down, I increase it to 200%. Display element, for me, I'm using gamepad, so I do focus using gamepad. But here I have right justified 20 by 1. This is the right justified, meaning when it's here, all of your icons are going to be on the right side. Because I have it on the left part, I want it more towards the center of my view, right? Where all the action is happening, okay? So that's that piece. Another piece is the enhancements on the right side. I want all the enhancements grouped on the other side, okay? And same thing as before, when you select this element here, hit the gear cog, and then look for status info enhancements. So in our example here, we're going to scroll down a little bit here until we see status info enhancement. So I'm scrolling down And I think it was at the very top there. I must have passed it up. There's conditional enhancements right here, but here's enhancements. It's group 1 right there in front of me. Drop this down 200% if you choose to do so. My resolution, in case you're wondering, isn't obviously an ultra wide display, but it's 3840 by 1600. So these, effects, the enhancements, the icons were really, really small. So 200% for me, it's good for me. But if your monitor's different, adjust the size accordingly for you. But another thing I want to stop to talk about here is this time it's left justified 20 by 1 because we have the enhancements on the right side of our screen. We want it to be left justified, meaning this whole display here will have the enhancements on the left part, which is going to be in the center part of your screen where all the fun, all the action is happening at. Okay, so that's what I want to talk about there. Another thing too is I have let me go back on the HUD menu here, the HUD layout that is. Another thing that I did here is I made sure that the hotbar, in my case, the cross hotbar, was raised a little higher than default. I did that because my character and all the information is, higher towards the center of the screen. So I felt like raising this up allowed me to not only see my cross hotbars and my, GCDs and the timers, but I can also see what's going on the screen. So I raised it up just a little bit, made sure everything was, centered or has symmetry to it, if you will. All right. And then off to the left, I do have my party list here. A lot of people have it off to the top left corner. I like to have my party list here. I just prefer that. Alliance list 1 and 2 down here. Item help, action help down here in the bottom left corner. Right above the party list, I have the limit gauge and then the duty gauge as well. And then right next to it is your focused target bar along with the enemy list, all kind of, nested right here in this little grouping here. I find it easier for me to look at all the information all at once when things are happening on the screen. As far as your job gauge goes, I actually like the look of the job gauges. I know a lot of folks like to use the simplified button or the simplified look of them to keep it more minimal. That's totally cool. If you want to do that, again, like I mentioned before, you're going to select the job gauge and then hit that gear cog and then make sure you click the button here that says switch job gauge to simple mode, and it'll basically just, lower it down to something that, is a lot easier, maybe easier for you to read, right? So go ahead and come out of here. And then over here, I have the progress bar. That's going to be for your casting or whatever you're doing for your progress bar. I like to have that kind of nested right there above the cross hotbar so I can easily see, especially for spell casting, I can kind of move before that bar is up. You guys know, that whole like 1 second thing where you can still move and still cast, because of the lag. So there's that. The mini map I have off to the right. I used to have the mini map off to the left, but I felt like it was clipping the alliance stuff, so I moved it over to the right, along with the duty action. And I do want to talk about this. So if we come out of this screen here, make sure in the HUD layout menu here, do you see where it says system, hotbars, and duty? Make sure that you select this. I think it's off by default. And if you see what's happening on the screen when I toggle it on and off, there's 2 elements that come on and off. One is the duty gauge and the other is duty action. So what I did is I make sure this is selected. I put the duty gauge right above the limit gauge, the limit gauge, and then the duty action is right down here. That's just a template for me. It works for me. You do whatever you'd like, but that's just kind of where I place things. As far as the notices in the inventory grid, guild, and main menu, I felt like none of that was really important when you're in battle, so I shoved that all the way to the far right corner to make it nice and easy to read. All these hotbars you see, I don't use any of these because I'm using a gamepad on PC, so I shoved all of these in the top left corner and out of the way. And then the New Game Plus guide, scenario guide, and duty list is off to the far right, sort of kind of centered to make sure it's all, has that nice symmetry look to it. Everything's kind of like, off to the right, off to the left, but it's still visible for me. And then finally, we have the target info HP bar. I didn't really have a space down here where, the XP bar, the server info, parameter bar, target info status. Like I wanted to have that down here instead. So I chose to put the target info HP bar up here and blew it up. I think it's 200%, but let me check that. I think it's looks like 180%. And so if you don't know what that is, when you select a target, you have the who has enmity, who has hate, and then you have the bar here. But that's completely optional. I mean, it works for me. I even lowered it down a little bit, so it's kind of in focus. Now, let's move over to the inventory of how this works. Whenever you pull up your inventory, your character menu comes up, and you have your armory chest, you have chokeable saddlebag, and you have your inventory. All comes up with a click of a button. I absolutely love this, that I can run this and boom, I have everything right at my fingertips and all in one view, an AIO. Okay, how do we do this? So let's go ahead and back out of all these menus here. And what I'm going to do is pull up again, we're going to go to user macros. Again, go to the second tab called shared. And then over here, I have the little medicine icon. And here is all of the macros that I'm running. Again, I'm going to put this in the description box so you guys can just simply copy and paste that into your game. But just a quick rundown, we have the slash saddlebag, we have slash character, slash armory chest, and then here we have slash inventory sort or I sort condition, armory category, eye level descending, and then level descending, perception descending, gathering, control, craftsmanship, and then we have I sort execute armory. So obviously, just go ahead and grab all of this from the description box below and paste that into your game, and then make some tweaks. If you feel like this doesn't work for you, just hit text command and find out whatever kind of floats your boat or whatever you feel like would work better for you outside of what I'm showcasing here in this video. For future videos for Final Fantasy XIV, I will be making cross-hotbar guides for each job. When I get to level 100 on each of them, I will be making guides on how to basically set up each cross-hotbar, kind of give you a template, what works for me at least for every single job. So if you're into that, be sure to subscribe and come back by whenever Dawntrail drops, and I'll start updating each job and how I set up my cross hotbar. Okay, I hope this guide helped, and we'll see you guys in the next Final Fantasy XIV video. Take it easy.